Well, you demanded it, and now it's here. I review Tremors next on Drew Reviews. So, guys, this review's been a long time coming. I've had a few of you in the comments talk about do Tremors, when I just mentioned it offhand one day. So, I'm going to get into it now. This movie I enjoy quite a bit. Of course, it stars Kevin Bacon as Valentine and Fred Ward as Earl Bassett. Finn Carter is Rhonda in this movie, and Victor Wong, who I really appreciate in all those John Carpenter movies. He is Walter Chang that owns the store in Perfection. You've also got the Gummers, played by Michael Gross and Reba McEntire in her first movie role. I really like those characters, these crazy survivalists who live up on this hill. So the basic plot of Tremors is you've got this little mountain valley town of Perfection, population 14, which cracked me up. You basically got the characters of Valentine and Earl, played by Bacon and Ward, and they're the handyman in the valley. They do some terrible jobs, like putting up fence. Anybody that's done that, that's not any kind of fun doing barbed wire. They're sucking sewage out of people's septic tanks. So at this point, they're like, man, I just feel like I was meant for something more. And they finally decide they're going to pack up and leave Perfection and go to the big city, I believe, of Bixby, which probably like one of the big cities we have around here. But before they can leave the town, these graboids, these gigantic groundworms, end up attacking, at first secretly. All the exits are kind of blocked off in the town, so they can't leave. They're kind of stuck there. And them and the townsfolk end up having to fight these giant worms to survive. So what I love about this movie is the acting is really good for what is basically amounts to a B movie creature feature. It's got that 50s vibe. And of course, you got Kevin Bacon, who was one of Hollywood's it guys at the time, and Fred Ward, who was a veteran. He'd done Escape from Alcatraz and things like that. Just love Fred Ward. They do a great job, and their chemistry as friends and co-workers really comes across the screen in this. There's this scene where Kevin Bacon in the beginning is driving posts, and he's trying to hit this nail, and he misses it like 8 times in a row. And the look Fred Ward just gives him in the beginning there, Stampede Earl. You can just tell these guys like each other, even though they kind of get on each other's nerves a little bit. They eventually meet Rhonda. They're supposed to meet up with her for this job, and she works at the university studying seismic readings. And the dialogue in this movie is really good too, especially in this scene. She asks if there's been any blasting in this area right after they talk about how long it's been, since he's been on a date with a woman. He's like, no, ma'am, not been any blasting around here for a long time. The dialogue's just great. Whether it's something like that or Earl saying "Pardon my French" after he's just cussed and kind of thrown a fit, I thought it was really good dialogue. The setting in this film is gorgeous. It was filmed in Lone Pine, California, and you can see the Sierra Nevadas off in the distance. It just, man, it's a beautiful movie to look at. I'm not much for desert. I think it can be pretty, but this was definitely pretty as far as how the cinematography was and everything. They built this little bitty town, not much unlike the little community I actually grew up in here in Missouri. Just nothing. We actually had a post office in somebody's house where I grew up. We had a few more people than Perfection had, but you just kind of feel the isolation, even though there's a lot of beauty in that isolation. The creatures in this movie were really cool. The graboids, they were made by Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff, who you might recognize those names from Aliens. They did the Alien Queen. Of course, they did Alien 3, which the puppet alien in Alien 3 was pretty good. The CGI not so much. But they did a really good job for the most part on these things. Really believed them as just these man-eating creatures that dwelled underground. And I like it because it was kind of new at the time. Dune had done the sandworm thing, but these things here could actually track you from the vibrations on the ground, the seismic readings and everything. And I thought that was a cool effect. They were essentially blind. Like there's a great scene where they're all running from the first graboid, and it hits this gigantic concrete partition and kills itself essentially. And I thought that was really cool that They are these just terrible creatures that were basically unstoppable, but at the end of the day, they are just creatures and they can be outsmarted. Although, toward the end of the film, they do start to get smarter about waiting people out on rocks. And I did like that they were slowly evolving. One more pro, which I briefly discussed earlier before I get into my small list of cons for this movie, is just that 50s sci fi vibe that this movie has. You could probably make this movie in black and white, and it would fit with those 50s monster movies. And I do enjoy a lot of those. Enjoy this probably quite a little bit more, but it definitely gives off that feel. I also like the music in this movie quite a bit. The score is really good. There is this song as I believe it's the doctor and his wife are getting devoured in their car. That was a great effect. It's slowly getting taken underground, and the headlights are shooting up in the sky. The next day, when Val and Earl find them, the radio's still going. And it's Bobby Bear's Drop Kick Me Jesus Through the Goalposts of Life. I thought that was a great touch. I've actually jokingly told the people I go to church with when we do a church singing, of course, I'm a guitar player, I'm going to do that song. Because if you've not heard it, listen to it. It's fantastic. It'll fit this movie to a T. Just really appreciated that scene and the music in general. Now, as for cons, I really don't have hardly any cons. I thought the pole vaulting scene in the beginning when they're on the rocks and they pick up these sticks and pole vault from one rock to the next, it's a little bit hokey and the visuals kind of funny, but like I said, it's a monster movie. It's okay. It doesn't bother me that much. The one thing about this movie that I'm like, I don't know, it probably could have been done better. Walter Chang, played by Victor Wong, and the young boy, I can't remember his name right offhand. They call the things graboids, and I just don't know. That doesn't, to me, really fit the look of the monster. I kind of wish they were called something else. I guess it works, but it just, I don't know. Does that bother anybody else? This film, of course, spawned several sequels. I don't even know how many. I got this Tremors Attack Pack, which has the original film and like three of the sequels. I'm definitely going to do Tremors 2 Aftershocks over on Macho Movie Madness for Warehouse B. So be looking forward to that. I assume if you're subscribed to Drew Reviews, you're probably subscribed over there. And if not, be sure and do that because we talk a lot of B movies like this over there and just B movies on Warehouse. But um, yeah, it's really surprising to me that this movie that was made on an $11 million budget and only made $16 million spawned so many sequels. Uh, you know, that's crazy. I guess the idea was so good that they just took it and ran with it. But most things that aren't very successful, don't get that many sequels. And speaking of not being successful, Kevin Bacon, the star of this movie, for the longest time, kind of resented this movie and thought it was a low point in his career and that he wouldn't be taken seriously after appearing in this, and it was such a dog at the box office. But he's since come back and changed his stance on this movie and said it was the funnest movie he ever worked on and really enjoys it. So, take that for what it is. Hollywood stars flip-flopping on whether they like a movie or not. But overall, guys, I really like Tremors. It's actually one of my favorite monster movies of all time. You got great characters, great dialogue, the setting, atmosphere, the vibe. The creatures are really cool. I want to give this an 8 out of 10. I kind of feel like I should go higher, but I also feel guilty about giving what's essentially a monster movie, closer to a 10. So I'm comfortable giving it an 8 out of 10, and I think that's fair. So let me know down in the comments what you would rate it. Guys, coming up next, I think I'm going to do Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. We're coming up on the 40th anniversary of the original Terminator, which you guys know is my favorite movie of all time. I want to talk some Terminator stuff. This may turn into more of a rant than an actual review based on how I feel about Terminator 3. But let me know down in the comments what you want to see next. I think I'm going to put up a poll since it's kind of spooky season here in October about some B movies and maybe something like this. It's kind of a creature feature. You guys can look forward to voting on that. So if that sounds like fun to you guys and you like what you see here on this channel, be sure to like and subscribe. I appreciate all my subscribers. Don't take any of you guys for granted. I try to make this place for the fans and try to talk about movies that most reviewers probably don't even touch on. So be sure and do that and hit the bell and everything. And until next time, guys, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you down the line on the next Drew Reviews.